Good afternoon. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor at Madison365 with your daily news and coronavirus update for Friday, September 11th, 2020. Support for Madison365 and the daily update come from Milwaukee Film, presenting the Minority Health Film Festival. So is opened yesterday and runs through September 24th, and we appreciate the opportunity to be the exclusive media partner of that important event. We'll jump right into our coronavirus numbers first, and then we'll have some other news that is some of which is coronavirus related, some of which isn't. But yesterday, you'll remember we set a new record with 1,547 new cases and 17.5% positive tests. We didn't set a record again today, although we weren't much better. Statewide, we have 1,369 new cases today. We did have slightly more tests, though. Yesterday, we had about 8,800 tests. Today, we were just shy of 10,000, which is much better. Excuse me. As you remember, back, in April and May, the governor basically set a goal of 12,000 tests a day, and we were there for a lot of like June and July. We've been lower lately, but today we're back up to 10,000. That did get us more cases. However, the positive test rate, or rather, got us fewer cases than yesterday, but more cases than we would normally have. But the positive test rate is now 13.75% today, which is better than yesterday, but still very bad. Right? 10% is kind of the cutoff that says, there's nothing necessarily magical about 10%, but if you're below 10%, you've got it under control, basically. And if you're below 3%, then you're really actually suppressing it. That's what the public health folks will tell you. So to be at 13.75% for the day is bad. Even worse, one day or even a couple of days can be just like a weird, like an outlier or an anomaly. But so that's why you look at trends and like trends over time. And for the past 7 days, we have gotten, we're at 14% positive tests. All the tests that have come in the past 7 days, 14% have been positive. And then on the 14-day rate is 11.5. Both very bad. Like those are, again, I don't enjoy giving you bad news. I don't want to panic you. I don't want to make you afraid of anything. But those are very bad numbers. What this indicates is that the state of Wisconsin, and we'll talk a little bit more about specifically what's behind some of these numbers in terms of Dane County and the University of Wisconsin. But as a whole, the state of Wisconsin, this thing is not under control. There are other states where things are getting better. For example, Texas. I just saw a piece from Texas Tribune. Texas was actually at 24% not too long ago. And now they've gotten it basically back down to about 7. So they're going in the right direction. We are not. We're going the other way. We had it, excuse me, we were down in the 2, 3, 4 range for the entire month of June. July, we had a lot more cases, but we were still like in the 7 and 8% range. And we kind of hovered there through much of August. Now we're back up to 14% for 7 days. That's really bad. There's just no way around it. Our total number of cases now, 86,250, of which 8,800 are considered active. That number I don't like at all because that is 700 more than yesterday. That active cases you want to see going down every day until it gets to 0 active cases, right? That's our pipe dream. That's our goal. So yesterday we had about 8,100. Today we're at about 8,800 active. And again, active is basically diagnosed within the past 30 days and still exhibiting symptoms. So there are 8,800 people that we know about who are still contagious. Who are hopefully, we hope, are isolated and quarantined and such like that. So few more numbers, then we'll get into some locality information, especially in regards to University of Wisconsin. 4 more deaths today, 1 in Dodge, Milwaukee, Vilas, and Washburn counties. Each experienced a fatality today, or rather reported a fatality today. These people probably passed away, several days ago. It just takes a little while for these to get into the data. The total death toll right now is 1,197. So it's likely we often don't see deaths reported on the weekends these days. So I would expect to see more fatalities reported Monday or Tuesday, and that'll get us past 1,200 for sure. The deaths are not going to slow down until the cases do. We've averaged now 6.3 deaths per day over the past week, and exactly 6 per day over the past 2 weeks, which is not as bad as I thought it would be at this point, to be honest with you. I really thought by September, given the numbers they were 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I would have anticipated that being closer to 10 every day. So, not sure what to make of that exactly, except that it's good news, and we'll take it. Highest local case count today is Dane County once again. Yesterday over 500, today 283. Basically, all of today's numbers would have set a record except for yesterday's numbers. So the statewide number is the second highest ever. Dane County is the second highest ever by a lot. Now, the University of Wisconsin has a significant impact on Dane County. Without University of Wisconsin, Dane County would have been less than 100 today. It does not, however, have a meaningful impact on the rest of the state. I guess depending how you define meaningful. Okay, if you take Dane County out of the data entirely, the other 71 counties still have over 1,000 cases today. Anytime you have over 1,000 cases, that's bad news, right? 1,086 new cases outside of Dane County today. And outside of Dane County, the test rate is still 11.5% today. So you can see that, putting Dane County in there, which basically Dane County right now, Dane County numbers are University of Wisconsin numbers for the most part. Those do move the needle a little bit. They move it from 11.5 to 13.7. I'm going to distract myself for a moment and jump in on the comments, Katina. I don't think that's exactly accurate. What they've said, what the UW has said, is that students, not UW, sorry, what Public Health Madison-Dane County has said is that University of Wisconsin students are not being cooperative with contact tracers. Or that, not I guess I can't say all of them, but there a lot of a disproportionate number of those students have not been answering the phone, has been trying not to be fully forthcoming with who they've been in contact with, which is understandable. If you knew anybody who lived through HIV in the 80s and 90s, you know that it's a challenge. Contact tracing is a challenge because you have to admit things you don't want to admit to. However, it is a significant. So we can't just say, "Oh, those terrible kids are making it worse for everybody." Even if that's kind of the case, like you can kind of understand where they're coming from. You're 18. You don't want to tell a stranger that you went to a party and were drinking. I can understand that. It is still, however, an impediment. But I mean, you're not off, Katina. You don't need to apologize. This is you weren't far off. It wasn't but it just wasn't that UW isn't being forthcoming. It's that UW students are being forthcoming with their own contact tracing. That's the only difference. I just want to make that clear. It is. It's frustrating. Jay says it is not understandable. It is frustrating. It is entirely understandable. You have to remember being 18 or 19, and a stranger from the government calls you up and says, "Tell me everywhere you've been in the past week. Somebody called me during my first year of college, and I was a nerd. Okay, I was not even particularly. I didn't drink even in my freshman year until like halfway through my freshman year of college. I finally buckled. uh, but like in my first week of college, I didn't drink or smoke drugs or do drugs or anything. But still, if some stranger called me after my first week of college, thank you, Nate, for confirming my nerdness as a young person. Somebody called me in my first week of college and said, "Tell me everyone you've had contact with for the past 7 days, please." Like, I wouldn't want to do that. I probably wouldn't have been able to. Like, I went to there's any UW Platteville alumni here. I went to a club uptown dance at Glenview Commons, and then, whatever. It's understandable. Even if you would have done it differently, it's understandable. Especially if you're, I don't know. It's there's a lot of distrust of government these days, and so I understand it. It's frustrating. I wish they would just comply. I wish they would tell everybody where they've been. It's understandable. However, yes, I didn't smoke the pot until much later. Okay, so let's get back to the numbers. Brown County today is in better shape. 58 cases, less than 10% positive test, just under 10%. Brown County, remember, the last couple of days has been over 100. A lot of rural counties here again today. Calumet, Clark, Dodge, Forest County, 10 new cases, 47.6% positive. Grant County, Marathon County, 12 cases and about 12% positive. Look at if you go to the Madison365.org, take a look at the story. You can get a lot of these numbers. I don't want to just read off all the numbers to you. I will say Milwaukee County is in better shape. It does have a high number today, 124 new cases in Milwaukee County, but only 6% positive tests, which is not bad. I mean, it kind of is bad, but it's not as bad as the rest of the state. Kenosha County and Racine County were very in bad shape not that long ago, if you recall. They are in much better shape now. They seem to have gotten a handle on it for the most part. Kenosha County today, 12 new cases, only 3.8% positive tests. Racine County, 13 cases, 3.75% positive tests. Yeah, and then the rest of the counties are just kind of bad. The numbers are just kind of bad all across, and you will see a lot of rural counties on here. And somebody mentioned before that the UW towns are being hit hard. That is true. It's hard to say. I haven't, unfortunately. There is a data dashboard for UW system. I haven't had a chance to look at it today. But La Crosse County, for example, 75 new cases yesterday, 78 new cases today. 26% positives. Walworth County, where UW Whitewater is in rough shape the last couple of days. 37 new cases today, about 18% positives. Eau Claire, 38 cases, 17.6% positive. So, Grant County, or UW Platteville, my alma mater, 18 cases, 27% positive. So that's just driving some of that rural county stuff. But like places like UW Superior, Douglas County seems to be okay. Kenosha County is where Parkside is. So not all the schools are getting hit hard, but several of them are. If you're finding the conversation between Nate and I amusing, Nate's my little brother, and he does a lot of the video work for Madison365. And if you're enjoying the repartee between us, I would suggest Nate, if you want to drop a link to the boxes on YouTube, the boxes, it's just called Boxes. It's Nate's socially distant sketch show that I'm on sometimes. And it's very, very funny and it's very good. And if you want to try to extract some humor out of our current situation, I would highly recommend it. And so, Nate, if you want to just drop a link to the YouTube or something, however you want to do that. Okay. I think that's all of the coronavirus news for the day that we have. One other coronavirus related. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me give you the rate of transmission is 1.22 today. Yesterday was 1.19, so it's slightly higher. We are now the second highest in the United States. West Virginia is at 1.42, and we're second at 1.22. That means every round of infection will be 22% higher than the previous round. 100 sick people will pass it on to 122 other people. So now you have 222 sick people. And those 122 will pass it on to another 130 or so. No more than that, 150. So it's bad news to be 1.22. We need that to be below 1. And it's going up. Going the wrong way. Thank you, Nate, for that. One other piece of coronavirus-related news. Time is so weird that I actually thought I already talked to you about this, but this only happened yesterday after we were done, after I finished my live yesterday, that the state Supreme Court issued an injunction. I said in the blurb on Facebook here that the Supreme Court struck down another order. That's not quite right. I should have phrased that differently. They issued a temporary injunction that basically allows Dane County schools to open if they want to. And then there's 3 separate lawsuits brought by families and private schools. And the Supreme Court ruled that those lawsuits are likely to succeed. So therefore, they basically enjoined order number 9 from Public Health Madison-Dane County. To be clear, this is Dane County we're talking about right now. But it will set precedent for the rest of the state, I'm sure. So the Supreme Court basically said, chances are this lawsuit will be successful. So we're going to go ahead and allow schools to open. I know of at least 2 private schools that are going to open on Monday. Abundant Life Christian School in Madison. It's a high school of 230 students. And then St. John's Catholic School, which is a grade school, I think, in Wanakee. Both have announced they're going to open. I'm sure there are more on Monday. And this is, yesterday that ruling came down on the same day that we set all those records. Who knows what public schools will do? Hard to say right now. But again, these are private schools that brought the lawsuit. So we will see what happens there. 2 other pieces of news that I want to mention that are not directly COVID related. One is about tomorrow in Milwaukee. It's going to be a big, big rally for Jacob Blake, Justice for Jacob Blake rally in Milwaukee. The story we posted this morning. There's so much news happening all the time that it's hard to keep anything on the front page for very long. Because every time we post something new, like only 5 stories fit on the front page at the same time. So I'm going to drop a link into the comments here. There's a rally for Jacob Blake in Milwaukee. Click on the link, see the entertainment lineup. It's going to be like a 4-hour thing. Fred Hampton Jr. is going to be there, the son of Fred Hampton, the past president of the Black Panther Party, one of the really well-known figures of the civil rights movement. His only son will be there, who's also in his own right a civil rights leader. Jacob Blake's uncle will be there. Several members of her family will be there. Our editor, Dave Dahmer, spoke with the organizers, Khalif Muab and then Jacob Blake's uncle as well. So they're expecting like 5,000 people. So if you're in Milwaukee County, check that out. It's at MLK Park in Milwaukee. And finally, I'm going to mention that Angela Russell has agreed to moderate a panel at the Wisconsin Leadership Summit. She is the host of Black Oxygen, which is our weekly podcast where she interviews other Black folks from Wisconsin. And part of the Leadership Summit, we announced the schedule yesterday. And on Friday, on the fifth and final day of the summit, basically all the panels are going to be divided up by affinity group. It's going to be a Black panel and a Latino panel and an Asian American panel and an Indigenous persons panel, and then a wrap-up panel of basically allyship and how we all come together. And they're not limited to those people, but it's like, whoever wants to attend, each one can, obviously, but each one is going to kind of talk about the unique issues that they face. And Angela is going to moderate the Black Oxygen panel on that Friday, the 9th of October. And I'm very excited about that. She is, if you've heard the podcast, she is a terrific leader of conversation. She really brings things out in people and that you normally wouldn't hear from them. So I'm really excited about that. WisconsinLeadershipSummit.com is the website. You can go and register now. $79 for the entire week, $49 if you're a nonprofit or government employee, $20 if you're a student. Check it out. It's going to be a terrific week-long virtual event. I see 70 has posted a link to the Dane County coronavirus map. I'm sorry I forgot to mention that. We did update the map this morning. We updated the map twice this week just because Dane County is changing and growing so fast. But one thing we added to the map today, and thank you for Stephanie for figuring this out, if you zoom in toward any neighborhood, in the past maps you got to click on the pin to get all the information. This one actually has the percentage increase next to each pin as you zoom into them. So you can see, you zoom in right down on Langdon Street, right next to campus, you can see it's a 1,300-something% increase, which the downtown campus was high to begin with and has increased 1,300% in the past 2 weeks. Not great. Anyway, take a look at that map, and you can see your neighborhood if you live in Dane County, kind of your, near where you live, how things are growing in the past 2 weeks. Okay, that's all I have for today. Any other questions? I will. England, Michael says England is considering a shutdown. I haven't heard that. I have no reason not to believe you. No groups larger than 8 inside or outside through December 31st. To get control of their outbreak of several hundred cases. I did hear about this. Yes, thank you. That reminds me. I did hear about this. That basically England is in much better shape than it was. And they got just a couple hundred cases and decided we're going to shut everything down because we're not going there anymore. Like, it's not even a very big outbreak, but it could become one, so they're just going to shut it down. So that's exactly the opposite of what we're doing here. Rachel asks, the majority of new cases are young adults. Yes. I know that there's no guarantee, but with younger folks not typically get as significantly ill. That's correct. Maybe we won't see a huge uptick in hospitalizations, death weeks down the road. Yes, I think you're right about that. That's what's giving me hope a little bit in the midst of these numbers, that you're correct that most of these new cases, especially in Dane County, virtually all are young people. Like today's new cases in Dane County, 93% of them are under the age of 29. And we won't get the full age breakdown till next week, but most of those are between 18 and 22. They're college students. And as you rightly point out, Rachel, the people of that age are much less vulnerable. Now, one of the deaths we reported yesterday was 20 years old. And lots of young people, this is anecdotal, but I've seen and heard and read about anecdotes of young people with long-lasting impacts, long-lasting health impacts. So it's not like he just gets off scot-free necessarily. However, that's one reason that we're not seeing a big uptick in deaths. And that's one reason I have hope that we will not see an uptick in deaths later. That said, young people can spread it like crazy. They can give it to people who are more vulnerable. Not only that, but lots of other lots of young people do have other comorbidities, diabetes or whatever, which can make it more likely that COVID would do significant damage or kill you. So it's not like 20-year-olds are immune or immune to the effects. However, you are correct that they're far less vulnerable, and I would expect to see a slightly lower uptick in deaths than we would have seen. Now, here's another statistic if you're in the mood for even more numbers. Early on, when we weren't testing as many folks, therefore we weren't identifying all of the cases, we were only identifying the most critical cases. About 4% of those cases that we confirmed died. Now that we're doing more testing and we're catching more of these young people and we're testing people who aren't seriously critically ill, that number went down and down and down, and it is now about 1.4%. Of the confirmed cases have died. It's very likely that 5 years from now we'll look back and realize that about 0.5% to 1% of people who actually were infected died. That'll be much lower among 20-year-olds and much higher among 90-year-olds, right? But overall, for the entire population, we can still anticipate that 0.5 to 1% of people have died or will die. So what that means is, of today's, like, even considering that a lot of the young people, will not die, will not be as vulnerable. Of today's new cases, 1,300 cases, 0.5% of that is like 7 people. That's 7 lives that are going to be lost in a month out of just today's new cases. That's just not good. So what that means is you're absolutely right, Rachel, that those young people who aren't vulnerable themselves necessarily as much, but are definitely able to spread it to older people, need to do their part and stay in and stay isolated and cooperate with contact tracers and really do what they can to you've got the virus. There's nothing you do about that, but you can help stop it from spreading further. You can not go home to your mom and dad. Don't go home to your grandma and grandpa, etc. Don't go out to the store where retired people are working part time. So, and put your mask on. So that's all. Thank you for your attention. Have a wonderful weekend. It sounds like it's going to be a nice one. However, if you go out, enjoy yourself, but mask up and keep that 6 feet of distance. Thanks very much for your attention, and we will see you again tomorrow. Thank you.